From censored files to clear evidence, this is Redacted Realms.
The metallic taste of blood filled his mouth before he even understood what he was doing. His fingers, blackened and numb, were the only source of warmth left in this frozen hellscape. A low, guttural sound escaped him. Not a scream, but the raw scrape of instinct overriding every civilized thought. The air didn't just feel cold, it felt thick and heavy, like drowning in ice. Every ragged breath carried the scent of his own decay, a sweet, sickly rot that promised an end. But survival isn't a choice made in the mind. It's a desperate, physical act that rewrites the very definition of self. This is not a story of a man lost in the snow. This is the moment he became something else entirely. A blackened, frostbitten finger fills the frame, every crack and crevice stark under the harsh light. From within a thick fur hood, a single desperate eye stares out, wide and unblinking. This is not a scene from a horror film. This is the true story of Dr. Anna Kellogg. For 47 endless days, she was imprisoned in a white hell at the world's peak. Her sole source of sustenance became her own body. To comprehend the nightmare of her end, we must return to the warmth of her beginning. This is the story of Irina, a geologist whose confidence would be shattered against the ice. Dr. Anna Kellogg wasn't an adrenaline junkie. She was a pragmatic geologist from Boulder, Colorado, grounded in methodical analysis. The damp cave air carried the scent of ancient stone and something faintly metallic. Her breath hitched as a distant, rhythmic scratching echoed from the darkness beyond her light. A primal dread took hold, her pragmatic mind grappling with the sheer, oppressive weight of the unknown. Brilliant. She led a 4-person team to the remote Svalbard archipelago, high in the Arctic Circle. Their mission: collect rare mineral samples from a newly exposed ridge. The air carried the metallic tang of ancient rock and the faint, ozone-like scent of the exposed earth. A deep, resonant grinding echoed from somewhere within the ridge itself. Her team was her family in the field. Mike, her steadfast pilot and logistics man, maneuvered the aircraft. Sarah, a brilliant but quiet botanist, studied the desolate landscape. And Leo, a young, energetic research assistant, monitored their instruments. They were equipped, experienced, and on schedule. Their base was a hardened research outpost, a metal hut stocked with supplies, fuel, and a powerful radio. For 2 weeks, everything went like clockwork. The samples were promising. The weather held, a fragile truce with the elements. Then, on the morning of their scheduled extraction, the world turned white. The storm came from nowhere, a roaring wall of ice and wind that swallowed the landscape whole. The deafening roar filled every space, pressing against them with physical force as visibility dropped to zero. The locals would later name it the Polar Tempest, a fitting title for a storm that devoured the world around them. Visibility vanished completely, swallowed by a white fury as winds screamed at 90 miles per hour. The metallic shriek of the gale was the only sound, a deafening roar that carried the scent of ice and diesel. Mike fought to secure the aircraft, but the tempest threw him against the wing with a sickening crack. His leg gave way. In the chaos, the unthinkable occurred. A massive drift of snow, driven by the hurricane-force wind, hammered into the side of their hut. The roof groaned and buckled inward. The radio antenna snapped off with a sharp crack. Their primary fuel drum, stored outside, was now entombed under 10 feet of glacial ice and snow. Inside the damaged hut, the groaning of stressed metal filled the air, thick with the smell of cold dampness and ozone from a severed power line. Their sanctuary had transformed in an instant, walls groaning under the immense weight of the encroaching ice. Shelter remained, but it was a frozen, silent tomb, with no means to call for help into the vast, indifferent wilderness. Their only heater flickered, its fuel nearly spent, and the plane, their sole escape, lay wrecked and unreachable beyond the storm. For 5 relentless days, the blizzard howled, gnawing at their hope as they rationed dwindling supplies. Each breath Mike took grew more labored, a rasping, wet sound that filled the heavy, frigid air. Time stretched thin, marked only by the creeping cold and the oppressive weight of their isolation. They attempted to excavate the fuel. They struggled to fix the radio. The Arctic cold defeated them at every turn. This was a cold that didn't just bite. It leached the warmth from their very marrow, leaving a hollow, brittle ache behind. 3 weeks in, the supplies vanished. Her handwriting grew frantic, jagged lines scrawling across the page. A metallic scent hung in the air, the smell of empty cans and desperation. And with each passing hour, Mike's condition deepened into something worse. The infection took root, spreading its insidious tendrils through the group. In a choice that would forever torment Anna, Sarah and Leo volunteered for a desperate journey. They would trek 40 miles south to a known weather station, carrying the last functional batteries for a handheld GPS. Sarah's final promise: "We'll send help," hung in the frigid air, a fragile thread of hope. Anna stayed with Mike, the weight of their decisions settling like a stone in the silent hut. They never saw Sarah or Leo again. Their absence became a permanent, hollow space in the air. Anna checked Mike's forehead, her fingers brushing against skin that felt unnaturally cool and clammy. Around them, The only sound was the faint, irregular drip of water seeping through the hut's thatched roof. His eyes were sealed shut. Mike endured for 2 more days before the stillness claimed him. Anna was now completely alone, the quiet more oppressive than the blizzard's roar. She melted snow over a dwindling flame, each drop of water a precious victory against the cold. But no food. Her body began to cannibalize its own tissues. The dull, constant ache of hunger was soon joined by a new, terrifying sensation. A deep, burning numbness in her fingers and toes. A primal dread took hold as the burning numbness intensified. Frostbite. Her body, preserving its vital warmth, was sacrificing its extremities. The blackened tissue on her fingers was necrotic. As she stared at her own decaying hand, a thought, grotesque and unbidden, sliced through the hunger haze. It was a thought born not of madness, but of a chilling, scientific logic. The dead tissue was no longer part of her living body. It had become just material, organic matter her body could no longer recognize as self, a source of protein her starving system could no longer obtain from anywhere else. Her body had begun consuming what remained of itself. The first time, she vomited, not from taste, for it had none, but from the sheer psychological horror of the act. The air in the room grew thick with the smell of bile and ozone. She was dismantling her own body, piece by piece, to fuel the thing. A deep, primal dread took hold, colder than the void she felt spreading beneath her skin. But it worked. A tiny, desperate flicker of energy returned. It was enough to melt more water, enough to think. She entered a monstrous new cycle of survival. As fresh skin on her hands and feet succumbed to the cold, died, and mummified in the dry air, it became her grim larder. The sun dipped below the horizon for the final time. Total Arctic darkness. The sun vanished, surrendering to the long polar night. A blackness so absolute, it felt like a weight upon the skin. Anna existed within a tiny, flickering island of candlelight, the sole bubble in an ocean of unspeakable reality. Her world had shrunk to the hut's walls, her few tools, and the slow, careful ritual that sustained her. It was a grim, auto-cannibalistic ceremony that alone kept her heart beating in the consuming void. She maintained a log, not of days, but of events. Event. Thawed water. Event. Tended to left foot. Event. Her humanity was fracturing, pared down to its most brutal, elemental core. Only the raw will to persist remained. On what would later be confirmed as Day 47, a Norwegian Coast Guard patrol investigating the lost expedition finally spotted the hut's damaged roof. Inside, they found Anna, her form skeletal, and curled beside a cold, dead stove. She weighed barely 70 pounds, a ghost of the woman who had arrived. The air in the hut was stale, carrying the faint, metallic scent of cold iron and the profound silence of a place long abandoned. Her hands and feet were grotesque, charred ruins. Yet beside her lay the geological samples from the ridge, meticulously arranged. She had protected them to her final breath, a guardian even in death. The air hung thick with the scent of burnt flesh and ozone, a testament to what she'd endured. And as we cut to the present day, that sacrifice would echo through the decades. Anna Kellogg survived, her hands resting in her lap, several fingers gone, the stumps a silent testament. She endured multiple amputations. The physical therapy was a daily agony of grinding bone and searing muscle. But the deeper wounds festered unseen, a cold dread that clung to her like damp linen. The air in her quiet home carried the faint, metallic scent of old blood and forgotten fear. She was hailed as a miracle, a hero of endurance. But in quiet interviews, she corrected them. Archival audio of Anna. I wasn't brave, I was efficient. My body became a resource. I managed that resource. There's no heroism in that, just arithmetic. The air in the room smelled of ozone and sterile alcohol, a cold, clinical scent that clung to the skin. Every calculation was precise, every decision measured, a ledger of flesh and function. She never returned to fieldwork. She lives a quiet life now, far from the ice and snow that once defined her. Yet one question haunts every doctor and psychologist who studied her case. A question that should unsettle us all. When Anna consumed her own frostbitten flesh, was it merely a desperate act of survival? Or had she, in that endless white void, transformed into something else entirely? A closed ecosystem of one. A creature where the predator and the prey were the same. The final shot. An empty, windswept Arctic hut. We like to believe there's a line we wouldn't cross. Anna Kellogg's story tells us that line doesn't exist. Only the biting cold remained, and a desperate will to witness just one more dawn. The air smelled of ozone and ancient stone, a frigid dampness seeping into the marrow. Then, from the abyss, a wet, rhythmic scratching began, like claws on frozen rock. A primal dread took hold, paralyzing every muscle as the void stared back.
If this file opened your eyes, subscribe and open the next case.